Hi, everyone. Just want to point out that my love creature over there is going to be videotaping me because my best friend is in Indiana and likes to hear me. This is a zine that I did about Stephen King's characters. This is like one of my favorites. And so this piece I'm reading is about like Southern Baptist bullshit. So, this is called After the Blood Came. Carrie White and I share a few things in common, which is why she is one of my favorite Stephen King characters. We both came from households of religious fanaticism. For Carrie, it poured out of her mother like poison baptismal waters. For me, it was my grandmother, who I called Christian grandmother when referring to her with my friends. While I wasn't locked in a closet for 6 hours to pray and repent my sins, I was locked away in my room, constantly worried that I was going to hell. Carrie was not told about menstruation in order to keep her pure. My parents, in particular my mom and grandmother, did not tell me the truths about sex and marriage. For me, sex was something you only did after marriage. Once on your wedding night so that you could become your husband's property. After wearing white, I was expected to give myself to him. After consummation, sex was only had for making babies. You did not enjoy sex or engage in it just for fun. Sex was never supposed to be goalless. Having babies would make me a real woman. Without babies, I would be a failure as a wife, as a woman, but most importantly, as a proper Christian. Love was important too, sure it was, but not more important than your love for Jesus. Crazy, intense, put me to the fire love was only ever reserved for the Almighty. Like Carrie's mother, my grandmother believed Jesus not only saw everything I did, but kept detailed records. Jesus was constantly passing judgment upon me along with his faithful congregation, eyes that were hidden but always open. For Carrie, Jesus was nailed to the wall. For me, he was nailed to the roof of my mouth, forever crucified there in a desperate whisper for forgiveness. Save me. Why won't you save me? Carrie was lucky. She could rain down stones upon her house, move objects, shatter light bulbs and ashtrays. I could only protest through the bad poetry I wrote and dreams I had where I wasn't monitored by some guy in the sky. In dreams, I was free to make my own mistakes and fall down so I could get back up, if I wanted to. Sometimes I wanted to stand, but when your soul is heavy, it's hard to use your legs. Like Carrie, I wanted to love and love fiercely without the shadow of marriage looming over me like the grim fucking reaper. Only once you're touched with a sigh, you lie. I existed under the shroud of fear that if I never married, I would never know intimacy or longing or tangible love, the kind you feel in your bones and marrow. Marriage was the key to unlocking happiness, and Jesus was the lock. Carrie lived with a certain amount of fear as to what her mother would say or do, especially in response to Carrie's period, her desire to go to prom. I lived in constant fear of Jesus' return. My grandmother was always preaching about when Jesus comes for his church. If you're not a member, you were left behind, and left behind meant demons and hellfire and a world without love and friendship and forgiveness. This godless world was tormented by evil and chaos, and I wanted to be with my family in heaven with Jesus. Of course I did, but I was only 9 years old. The thought of missing out on my life was heartbreaking to me. If Jesus returned, I would never feel my first kiss, slow dance with someone I liked, fall in love, learn to drive, or get married. Jesus' return seemed suddenly selfish and ill-timed. What about what I wanted? Many nights while brushing my teeth, I would stare out into the night praying to not see holy lights. I was plagued with the fear that tonight would be the night. Every night was the night. What if I didn't know it? What if I slept through it? What if I really wasn't saved? I mean, how could I tell? Jesus could tell. So after being tucked into bed, I would lay in the darkness and try to speak to Jesus. Inquire about his timeline. When did he think he might be arriving? And was I going with him? But I only ever heard silence. One Saturday morning, I woke to discover the house was empty. No mom or dad, sibling or grandmother, nothing. Sheer terror ripped through my body because I knew in that moment that it had happened, and I had slept through it just like I feared I would. Jesus had taken my entire family, hell, probably the whole entire world, and left me alone. I had no idea what was waiting for me outside, but that didn't stop me from tearing out of the house like a bat out of hell. I didn't know where I was going because I really wasn't thinking. I was running on pure adrenaline and fear. I was beyond hysterical, and it was all I could do to catch my breath. So I didn't notice when my mom came running out of the garage in a frenzy. At some point, she grabbed me, trying to hold me, and I was fighting her. Eventually, I collapsed into her arms and surrendered to the calm that washes over you after a period of panic. And just like that, they all filed out of the garage where they had been the whole time, and to tell my story of while I was running sounded insane, and I was ashamed that I wasn't saved. Grandmother said if I was really saved, I would not have been scared. Jesus had learned me a lesson. I might not have been physically alone in the world, but that day made me realize that I was different from them, that I had been left behind in a sense. I would and could never be one of them. I was not a member of Jesus' church, and I was not saved. I was not content with Jesus' love for me, and I never would be. Like Carrie, after the blood came, I too would become a woman. After the blood came, I set it all on fire. And then I'll read one little short one. So this one is called Love is a Language Secret. One of the most remarkable things about being close to someone, whether it is romantically or platonic, is the secret language that often exists between two people. Lizzie and Scott Landon shared such a language, one in which words and vocabulary were not easily translatable. To the naked ear, such language seems nonsensical, but in truth, within each syllable, within each sound that escaped their lips, was a testament to the strength of the bond between them. Cultures and tribes the world over have their own way of speaking to each other, their own way of communicating their wants and desires and love. The secret language between lovers is so much more than love. It is a fluency that flows from one fiber of one being to another, on the tongue or through a touch, a smile, a gesture. Sometimes language happens in silence. Lizzie could understand Scott even when he went away to a secret place, the world that only he could inhabit. She could hear him when no one else could. Sometimes our fluency falls on deaf ears, or ears that are not accustomed to hearing such language and inflection and tone. Sometimes in order to protect our true selves, to keep safe what we hold most dear and sacred about ourselves requires words that no one else can know, like the secret name of God. Then along comes a someone who not only hears your secret voice, but understands what it's trying to say and hide and to be set free. Someone who not only is capable of such translation and understanding, but also speaks the same exact language fluently. Fluency is always everything. It is in these words, within the confines of these magical and secret conversations, that truest form of love manifests itself, like a seed sprouting from the warmth of the sun, or for forgiveness for being content in the dark. Fluency can exist in the dark, but not for long. This language ties the lovers or friends to each other in a way bloodlines cannot. Fluency is stronger than DNA and herstory and family trees and tangles. No matter how long a relationship lasts, whether laid to rest out of growth or location or death, the words remain, the language never forgotten. Fluency is forever and always. And sometimes alone in the dead of night, a word will come to mind like a faint ding of a wind chime, and you will remember. Oh, you will remember what it feels like to be so close to someone, so connected, like the heartbeats blend and the lungs become one, rising and falling to each other, only each other. And you will breathe deep, so very deep, letting the world gently descend into the core of who you are, and you will know, oh, you will know, that fluency is housed in bones.